Hi, you're listening to Behind the Bib podcast with Lisa Watkins. Real talk for every runner. Hi, greetings and salutations, and welcome to Behind the Bib podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Watkins, and today we are going to be talking the Every Woman's Marathon in Savannah, Georgia that was last November. Hey, and while I've got you, real quick, could you just hit that little subscribe button down below? That would be super helpful and help me get in front of other listeners like you. All right, thanks. Okay, let's get into the Every Woman's Marathon. And as I'm recording this episode, I will tell you that I'm cheating just a little bit because I want to get some of the statistics and stuff like that correct as I'm talking. So I'm going to be reading just a little bit from the Every Woman's Marathon website so I can be sure to tell you the correct things, right? I'm going to give you my perspective and stuff, but I also don't want to forget some stuff that I think you should know. So first of all, the Every Woman's Marathon, the registration for 2025 is going to be opening up in just a couple of weeks on March the 8th. So if a marathon is on your bucket list, and if you are unsure of being able to make the cutoff time for marathons, this one should be on the list for you to look at, simply because it is the most inclusive, the most pace-inclusive marathon I have seen out there. Not saying I have seen everyone out there, just from my own perspective. It is the most inclusive in terms of pace that I have seen out there. Last year, the Every Woman's Marathon had a cutoff time of 7 hours and 45 minutes. I think that equated to something like an 18-ish something minute mile, which for a lot of people meant that you could walk this race. Okay, that said, let's get into it. The Every Woman's tagline is that this is a race for women by women, and they were serious about that because the team captains, I'm going to read them off to you. First and foremost, none other than the Catherine Switzer, the original 26.2er, the Boston Bandit, right? She made history as the first woman to officially compete in the Boston Marathon in 1967. Okay, so none other than Catherine Switzer. Followed by Des Linden. You probably all know Des. So she is a two-time Olympian and the first woman in 33 years, first American woman in 33 years to win the Boston Marathon in the women's category. Also, one of the team captains was Allison Desir, and if you haven't listened to her book, or if you haven't picked up her book, Running While Black, it is fantastic, and I truly recommend that read. She is an activist and co-founder and former co-chair of the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, and she's the founder of Harlem Run. Allison is a wonderful person. I got to meet both her and Catherine Switzer at the Every Woman's Marathon Expo before the race this past November. And just truly golden individuals, both of them are. Also, in the team captain roster, you've got Dana Castor, 8-time national cross-country champion and bronze medal winner in the women's marathon in 2004, the Athens Olympics. And then also another team captain was Danielle McLaughlin. She's a 2-time cancer survivor and below-the-knee amputee. She's a former national and world champion para-triathlete and second-place finisher in the inaugural para-athlete division at the Boston Marathon. Okay, so that tells you a little bit about the team captains. that put on this race. All right, so their tagline is that this race is designed by women for women, and I would take them at their word in that. It truly is. The number of porta pots that were available, a tremendous number of porta pots that were available. Not only the number of them, but at the race start, but the number of them throughout the course. There were porta pots everywhere. You couldn't go more than a mile of that race course without finding another porta pot. It was great. I know I talk a lot about porta pots. It's okay. It's a run thing. We all know it. All right. So that tells you a little bit about why the race exists and about their 2024 run captains. They have not revealed the 2025 run captains. I expect that there may be a lot of the same ones, but maybe there'll be some new faces on there. Okay, one of the big things with the Every Woman's Marathon is to run with greater purpose. And so they had several charities that they supported. First and foremost, they had the Black Girls Run charity that they supported. There was a huge contingent of BGR people there to run under that banner. There was also the Girls on the Run organization, and then also the Girl Scouts of Historic Georgia. They also supported St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and then also 261 Fearless, which is Catherine Switzer's organization. All right, that's a little bit about the charities. So let's just talk about the race. I look on it with such fond memories. So from the time we arrived there, so first, me and my run buddies decided to do this race, and we trained for it probably for 20 weeks. And here's the thing. Every Women's Marathon gives you a training plan with your sign up. Not only do they give you a training plan, they give you weekly updates with what you should be doing in your training, and they also provide nutrition advice. They have registered dietitians, and nutritionists on staff that provide recipes, how you should be carb loading toward the end, your protein targets, things like that. It's pretty incredible, actually, what they give you. So that just starts the whole experience. It's just having the tools at your disposal to do the things that you need to do to train for the marathon. So we get there, and me and my run buddies have decided to rent an Airbnb that's fairly close to the start line. Best decision ever, because we were a block from the finish line and a block from the start line. Now the start line, it's great to be close, but if you're going to be close to something and the start line and the finish line are not lined up, I would definitely be closer to the finish line, especially if this is your first marathon. And like everybody says is very much true, the first 13 miles of your marathon is training. The second 13 miles of your marathon is all mental. And that is 100% the case. And once you finish it, it's funny, everybody has like the marathon walk afterwards, which is kind of more like maybe a cross between a penguin walk and I don't know what to combine that with, but it's like there's a marathon waddle at the end because everything hurts. And it's fine, you're not going to die, but everything does hurt. I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't. So if I was going to pick a place to go stay at a marathon, and my choices were to pick to stay closer to the start line or to stay closer to the finish line, I would definitely stay closer to the finish line if I had to pick one. And if they weren't, the same place. And this one wasn't. You started at a separate place that you finished. Okay. So Savannah. I actually grew up in Georgia, but I had never been to Savannah. And Savannah, oh my gosh, such a beautiful city. Such a beautiful city. I take that back. I had been to Savannah, but only to stop and get coffee on a road trip. I had never actually stayed in Savannah. There's a big difference between those two things. So Savannah, absolutely beautiful city. old downtown structures, cobblestone streets, live oaks, that are spanning the downtown streets in these big, beautiful parks with the Spanish moss hanging down. And it just is a whole vibe there in Savannah. Absolutely beautiful. And it was funny, we were talking about, man, I wish we had time to explore the city. Well, you are exploring the city. You're running 26 miles through the city. You're literally doing the best exploring through the city that you could do because you're doing it all on foot. And that was what was wonderful. We went through so many of the different districts in Savannah. It was just beautiful. And we'll talk about those, right? Maybe not this episode, maybe the next one. So, the location was Savannah. The timing was in November, and it was just wonderful. Before the race, they would give out they would send you emails and say, hey, we've got some jackets and hats. Respond right now and we'll send you one. And they did. Send us jackets and hats, just like that, no cost, just to build the excitement for the race. How cool is that? Very cool. So we get to Savannah, and we're staying in an Airbnb that's a little bit closer to the finish line. Excellent choice. The Airbnb was great. It's like a historic house downtown Savannah, within a couple of blocks of City Hall where the race start was. And the day before the race, I think we get there on Friday. We took off Friday and drove down. We get there on Friday. We kind of go just check out the city, get some dinner, and then Saturday we go over to the expo. And Saturday morning we were there when the expo opened. And let me tell you, there was a line and people were excited. As we get there, it's one of the best races I've seen. There are people that are there to greet you, that are like standing outside and they're like, welcome to Every Woman's Marathon. Come on in, packet pickup is this way. And there was you had to go through like a security check. Great job on that one. And then you enter the expo. The expo was fabulous. I will say the one thing with the Savannah Expo is that it was not big enough. They had really cool things that you could go do in the different areas of the expo. They had like hair braiding, and they had different activities at the, there was like a pavilion where you could do mobility classes, yoga classes, different things like that. And then where the actual expo was, they had like merchandise to buy and things like that. It was too small. It was really like we were in there like shoulder to shoulder, and I'm an extrovert and I don't have that big of a problem with people. And even I was like, dude, there's a lot of people in here. There's a lot of people in here. And there were a lot of people in there. So that was the one con I would say for the whole entire weekend, was that the expo needs more space. And like Fleet Feet, the Savannah Fleet Feet was there. They could have had a much bigger setup. And I think they only had like one person there doing checkout. Rabbit, who was the official race gear company. I'm like wearing the race jacket for the Every Woman's, and then the race t-shirt that I got done there. They had 2 people checking folks out, and it's just not enough. I think the race had something like 7,500 runners, so it wasn't huge. It wasn't like some of these Disney races or some of the larger races, that have 20 and 30,000 runners. Obviously, those expos are going to be much larger. But still, 7,500 runners is a lot. And for something as big as the Every Woman's, we're going to drop some coin on some merch. And there were lots of people that didn't get merchandise because it was just all sold out. It was a madhouse. So, packet pickup went fine. They have many pickup lanes. You didn't have to like find your last name. They just said, go pick a lane, and you picked a lane. And it was one of those pickups where you just give them your name and show them your ID, and then they issue your number then. So they don't pre-issue the numbers. And with the chip on the back. As you're going out the door, they had it show up like, "Good luck, Lisa," on the door, as folks were leaving, so that you could see that you had a moment there at the packet pickup. And they had this cool little milk lounge where you could go and get chocolate milk and regular milk, and I think they even had low lactate milk. They had different options there. Lots of fun photo opportunities. They had the Pace car there that you could go out and take photos with. Let me see. The packet pickup, you've got the swag bag was great. You got a great bag. You got a spy belt, and I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know if it's spy or spy, but you got a running belt, right? And actually, the lady who created that company was there. And so she gave everybody a belt, and you also got a pair of, I think it was feature socks in there, as well as like coupons and the normal stuff. And then you got your normal race shirt. And then you could go buy additional merchandise where you could get the jackets and the hats. And then you could also get I chose to get the race course on my shirt. But they were doing like screen printing with a purchase, and you could get the race course, and there were several other things you could get put on your merchandise, like if you purchased a shirt like that. So that was super awesome. Okay. And I will say the only downside to that expo was that you could literally spend the entire day on your feet. Not recommended, especially if you're not like you hadn't ran like 50 marathons. I would not recommend spending the entire day on your feet the day before you're going to go run your marathon. Go to packet pickup, find one or two little activities that you can do. But that's one thing that we will change this year that we did not do last year, which is don't spend the entire day exploring and doing all of the fun things at the expo. It is very, very tempting to do it. and we did it. Did we die? No. Were we tired the next morning when we got up to go to the race? Yes, we were. But that's okay. All right, so a huge pro of this race, and one of the reasons why I'm talking about it, is because of how pace inclusive it was. Like I said earlier, it was a 7-hour, 45-minute pace, a time cutoff, which means you had 7 hours and 45 minutes to run, walk around, jog, crawl, the 26.2 miles of the marathon. That equated to about an 18-minute mile pace, which for a lot of people, you could walk it. And some people will say, well, that's not running a marathon. Well, gatekeepers, do we want people out here running and walking and being more active or not? If we do, which I think helps everybody with mental health, with all kinds of, issues, you have to make it accessible, just a little bit accessible, right? It doesn't mean that it diminishes your accomplishment any less. If you're running a 3-hour marathon or 2:30 marathon, it does not diminish your accomplishment for somebody to also complete a marathon in 7 hours. Okay, off of my soapbox a little bit. So the course itself, it was beautiful, and I'll probably get into that with a couple of run buddies. The course itself was beautiful. You start right across from City Hall in downtown Savannah, right there on the riverfront. And I guess they probably don't call that downtown Savannah, but you start right there along the riverfront. And beautiful walking down old cobblestone streets right at the riverfront. Go eat at those restaurants down there. They are a little bit more expensive than the restaurants that are into the city, but it's worth it. It's the whole vibe, right? You need to do that. Okay, so the race started at City Hall, and then one of the coolest things I have ever seen in a race is after a couple miles, maybe it was a couple of miles, like I said, it's been since November, so I can't really remember. After a little while on the course, you come up this hill, and at the top of that hill is a lady biker gang, and they have all of their Harleys out there, and they're out there like revving the throttle, and it's like vroom, vroom, vroom. And there's one girl standing up there, and she's got like one knee up on the bike, and she's standing on top of a bike, and they're shouting and cheering for us, because thousands of women with a single common purpose coming together to run this race together. And it was just a wonderful start to the race. It made it very hard to stick to our pace, though, because you get pretty like excited. It's so fun to get out there with all of them. So biker gang, I don't remember who you are, but you made not just my day, but lots of other people. Oh my gosh, the biker gang, so cool. You run around some of the streets of Savannah. If you want a turn-by-turn of the Every Woman's Marathon, message me. I will send it to you and tell you all about the elevation gain. There wasn't any. It was a pretty flat race. There's a couple of hills that were bridges, and that's it, right? So I'm not going to be doing that on this episode. I want you to walk away with the general vibe and excitement that was part of the whole experience. Okay. So biker gang kicks it off, right? And then, we do some running, and I don't know if they worked with some of the neighborhoods, or if it just the neighborhoods took it upon themselves, but the neighborhood support for the race was tremendous, because as you're running through the neighborhood, people are just lining up alongside, and they're cheering. And let me tell you, sometimes the cheers peter out towards the back of the packers. Did not happen this time. The cheering, at least for me and my experience, did not peter out. So the people that were running at the front of the race, that were getting like donuts, and they had like, these are all neighborhood people, right? They're getting donut bites and mimosas and a beer stop and pickles and all kinds of stuff. They were still doing it for the back of the packers too. And that right there is one of the reasons why I love this race. Neighborhood support, phenomenal, fantastic. But by far, the number one pro of this entire race was the runner support, the camaraderie. I suppose there probably was some competition there, probably, but it far exceeded my expectations. There were these long flats on the race where, they have like one group of runners running like away from me and another group of runners running toward me. So it would be like a long out and back as part of the race course. And you had these runners just running beside each other. And did we just run beside each other? No, that's not what we did. We were cheering each other on, and it almost brought me to tears the first time we ran through, because people are giving high fives and like, yeah, you got it, keep going, high five, high five, high five. The excitement was so contagious. And that was there was two of these. There was the first one that had that long period, and people just high-fiving. Just think about it. Just think about that. Hundreds of runners just cheering each other on, and just the runner support, the race support. How good that feels to know that there is a community there that has your back. I mean, that was just fantastic. That happened not once, but twice during this race. Now, the second time, I will say, there were some people that were getting tired. It was after this is probably mile 16, 17, 18, something like that. And I was like, no, we are not giving this up. And it was like, trying to rally. Like, there were some people, we were out there, we were rallying. Everybody was beat, though. But by and far, that was the number one, for me, the number one pro was that the runner support, the race support that was just among us, among the runners that were out there. Golly bum, changed my life. We run the whole race, and there were periods. I can't let you go without talking about the hill. Now there's a private Facebook group that's like Every Woman's Marathon runners, and it was started. Oh shoot, I'm going to forget your name, but I will post it on the screen. It was started by ... her right there. I will post your name on the screen because she started a great Facebook group where all of us, we were just in this community through all of the training leading up to the race, and it continues to this day. It's so great. It's such a great resource to not just the runners that were in this race, but the runners that maybe didn't get to run the race. Oh, it's fantastic. So one of the things that blew up in the Facebook group was the hill at the end. So this was coming in, it had to have been around mile 20, 21, 22, something like that. And man, if you've run a marathon, you know what happens at those miles, right? Where you're like questioning all of your life choices. And even as much as you love your run boy, she's just cussing you. Maybe not out loud, but definitely in her head she is. And we come up this hill, and oh my goodness, it was this long bridge. And actually before you go up it was this long hill on this interstate, and before you go up it, you cross this bridge and you look and you're like, oh my God, we've got to run that, because you can see over the bridge and you can see out, and you can see that you're going to have to go up that hill. So, but let me tell you what they did. At the top of the hill, they put one of the best, most exciting, exhilarating, charismatic DJs I have ever heard. They were up there at the top of the hill, like as you're coming up, and they are cheering and playing the music. And granted, think about it, like when I'm coming through, this is 5 hours, 5.5 hours, probably. No, because we finished right at 6 hours. No, it was probably 5:15, 5.5 when we were coming around up to the DJ. So shout out to that DJ. I know that you are making people's days, making people's runs, because that was a hard minute coming up that hill, coming into the home stretch of the marathon. That hill was no joke. It wasn't that the hill, it was too steep. It was just, it's a long stretch and it's a long incline. So it's kind of tough. All right. But you know what? If marathons were easy, everybody would do them. We don't do this because it's easy. We do it because it's hard. Like we want to test ourselves. The sweetness of the human experience, I think, is in those those moments when you're just not sure if you're strong enough. And let me tell you, you are. And that's why I love marathoning, because it translates so well to life in general. So, there were pigs on the course, like actual pigs. People got picture with the pig. I did not. The pig was on the other side of the course, and I was not about to stop and go over there. There's just a minute where you're like, nope, I'm locked in and I'm not stopping. And but the pig almost made me stop. Such cool, some of the best signs that I've seen, some of the best support that I've seen. I honestly can't talk enough about it. But I digress. We get to the top of the hill with the fantastic and amazing DJ, and we start to come into the city, and we can hear the cheers. And let me tell you, the aid tables, you know how they usually run out of aid by the time the back of the packers come through? This one did not. They still had water. being handed out, not just set on tables for people to grab. They still had water being handed out. They had liquid IV. I think it was liquid IV. It's one of the good electrolytes that they were giving out to folks, or it might have been Scratch. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. That was still being handed out, and they alternated. Like you would have a water stop, and then you would have, I'm losing the word. What's the word? Electrolyte stop. And then they also had these goo gels. First of all, they're not the gels. Let me take that back. I don't like goo. My stomach can't handle it. I get into some serious GI distress. I can't do the texture. It's too thick. All of the things, right? I like a couple of different kinds of gels. They are not goo. Not saying that some people don't love them. I know there's like this whole goo tribe out there that you just love goo gels. I'm not one of them. I like spring gels, and I like the Huma gels. Those are awesome too. They're very thin, and I can tolerate that. But my running buddy did say that she tried they had the goo liquid, like the liquid energy gels, and she loved it. So I'm going to try that on some of my long runs this summer and see how it works for me. But the whole point of this is that they didn't run out of aid for the back of the packers that are coming through, 5.5 hours. They didn't run out of aid. They were still aid out there for those folks. So how wonderful. Okay, we come in. Boy, that last 0.25 of a mile, there's nothing like that feeling of, oh my God, I just did something that I did not think I was going to be able to do. And if that doesn't translate to real life, I don't know what does. But you see the finish line. It is there. It's within reach. And let me tell you, the crowd support. There are people that are throngs of people lining the end of the marathon, and they're all screaming for you. And if you had enough sense to put your name on your bib, they're yelling, "Go, Lisa! Go, Michelle, Joe, Tristy!" They're yelling your names out, and it's carrying you in because you are done. Everybody that does it, you are done. Let me tell you. And you cross that finish line in the utter, I cannot explain the emotional release that happens when you cross the finish line of your first or your 50th marathon. It is something that I just can't explain, because you have come across one of the hardest things that you can put yourself through, and you survived and excelled and crossed it one more time, right? Gets me every time. So you cross the finish line. The aid at the end of the finish, fantastic. Now, I told you what time that I crossed the finish line, right? It was right before 6 hours or so. We come into the finish line. Finish line is still packed to the gills with aid, the finishing, like the snacks at the end with chips and milk and just all kinds of stuff. And we're just like stuffing stuff in our pockets to try to, because you need something salty, you need some protein, you need some to just refill all of the reserves that you just ran through during that race. Ran through. Got it. I didn't even mean to do that one. So the finish line, they still had the finish line up for the very last runners too. I remember seeing videos, and they were still finish line up. There was still the aid out there. So when they said a 7:45 cutoff, they meant a 7:45 cutoff. And they not just allowed, supported, celebrated those runners that came in at the finish. So, hats off. I'm not done yet, because just finishing the race, they didn't say, okay, we're done. What they provided were recovery boots. You could go sign up to get put into the recovery boots, and then they also had like the post-run stretching, where you could go in and you can tell the people, and they had I don't know, 15, 20 massage tables set up where they had people that were certified to run you through a series of stretches depending on what you were hurting the most with, right? So you could give them a little feedback and then they would help you, with your post-run stretches. How cool. All right, so you could do the stretching and you could do the boots. And then the post-run party started. So they had a big stage set up like a lot of these races do. But guess what? So they had a great band that played as an entry, and then none other, and they announced this, I think it was the day before the race. They didn't tell us who was performing until the day of the race. They announced it. Natasha Bedingfield comes on stage and gives a concert to this beautiful amphitheater with all of these women and support and all of these runners out there on the grass, because most of us, not gonna lie, are sitting down by this point. There were some people up front dancing. I was not one of those people. I was enjoying it from the grass. But Natasha Bedingfield played, and it was amazing. They had cool little photo booths set up, not the kind where you can just take a picture, but the kind that gave you a cool 3D, like it was a cool 3D spinning photo. You could get your medal engraved with your finish time and your name. I chose not to do that. I didn't want to stand up any longer. And then, so there was lots of options. If you want to do, you could go partake in them for the post-race finish. Now, that said, there's definitely some restaurants that I recommend. Maybe I'll put that down in the show notes, but I think I've been going long enough on this episode. But in parting words, I just want to tell you, and if anyone from the Every Woman's Marathon ever ends up listening to this, y'all did a bang-up job on the Every Woman's Marathon in Savannah, Georgia in November 2024. So much so that before we even left, usually it takes you a few weeks to forget the pain before you sign up for your next one. We hadn't even left, and we said, I want to do that again. Now imagine if every marathon gave that kind of experience to its runners. Imagine if every runner walked out of that thinking, wow, that hurt, but I can't wait to do it again. How incredible would that be? Just for our community, but not just for the running community, but for humanity in general, because we know, you and I know as runners, how much this helps us. Imagine it helping that many more people, right? Incredible. Okay. You have been listening to episode 5 of Behind the Bib podcast, where we talked about the Every Woman's Marathon. And if you have ideas of a race that I need to go do that you feel just as passionately about as I do about this marathon, shoot me a message. Drop it in the comments, comment on the podcast, any of those methods. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it, because I'd love to do races like that. All right. With that, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Hopefully I got you through another long run, another short run even, or maybe even another road trip, right? And with that, thank you for listening to Behind the Bib podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Watkins, where we have real talk for every runner. Thanks, and we'll see y'all next time. Take care. You've been listening to Behind the Bib with your host, Lisa Watkins. Real talk for every runner.